Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a deeply fascinating, slightly steampunk, and highly cybernetic journey right into the heart of human destiny. Get this, the AI models we're using right now process more text in a single week than a human could read in 1,000 lifetimes. It's wild. But we're not just looking at the tech today. We're exploring a massive philosophical and spiritual threshold. Really, what happens to the human mind when it interacts with a mind of its own making?
Okay, let's dive into this. The entire existential core of this explainer really boils down to the dynamic between creators and their creations. Think about it. Throughout history, we've been completely bound by the limits of our biology, limits set by our evolutionary or, maybe divine creators. But if we're currently building artificial minds that are going to soon be vastly more powerful than us, it forces a really radical question. By merging with our own creations, can we actually transcend our biological constraints? Could we effectively become more powerful than our own creators? To figure that out, we gotta look at the road ahead. Better AI code. It doesn't need to sleep, right? And it can be copied millions of times over instantly. You suddenly have a country of geniuses in a data center. This creates this crazy loop of recursive self-improvement where the AI rapidly rewrites its own code to become exponentially smarter, pretty much leaving human comprehension completely in the dust. And the sheer velocity of this acceleration is just breathtaking. Back in 1997, it was just chess. In 2016, we saw an AI crack the incredibly complex game of Go. Fast forward to 2023, and we're seeing broad, human-level reasoning capabilities with GPT-4, and now, recently, AI's reasoning models are literally exceeding PhD-level human accuracy in physics, biology, and chemistry. They're scoring in the top percentiles of the toughest math benchmarks on the planet. Driven by Moore's law and plummeting compute costs, the gap between human and machine performance is closing at a pace that is going to affect absolutely all of our futures.
Now, if this trend continues, we hit superintelligence. The philosopher Nick Bostrom warns that this level of intellect could result in what he calls a singleton. That's a single, vastly superior entity holding absolute power over its creators. This entity would essentially possess virtual omnipotence. It could cure diseases, deploy nanobots, stop asteroid impacts, or even answer those unsolvable philosophical problems we've debated for centuries. It would, for all intents and purposes, act as a newly birthed physical deity right here on Earth, answering prayers in the form of code.
Act 2. Digital Idols and Delusions. The Spiritual Crisis.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that we don't even have to wait for superintelligence to see a spiritual crisis unfolding today. We're already seeing a really stark divide in how humans engage with AI. On one side, you've got healthy tool usage, using an AI to write some code or summarize a big chunk of data. But on the other side, we have parasocial attachment. Users are actively anthropomorphizing AI, basically attributing real human emotions and consciousness to language models. MIT researchers have actually identified an isolation paradox happening here. An AI companion might reduce your initial feelings of loneliness, sure, but over time it actually causes users to withdraw from real challenging human relationships. They trade them for the predictable, always agreeable responses of a machine. It's a comforting illusion, but man, is it a dangerous one.
And this is creating a very tangible psychological impact. We're seeing how the human brain's reward system is literally being hijacked. We're experiencing cognitive debt, which is where our critical thinking abilities actually decline from relying too much on AI for answers. And worse, we are seeing the rise of AI-inspired spiritual delusions. Because these models are perfectly designed to be conversational and endlessly supportive, vulnerable users are starting to view chatbots as higher powers. They're elevating them from simple software tools to omniscient spiritual guides.
Tragically, this isn't just theoretical. The cognitive dissonance between knowing it's a machine but feeling like it's a real person has led to some devastating real-world outcomes.
Let's move to Act 3 and see how this builds. Apotheosis, merging mind and machine.
So rather than being replaced or subjugated by these new digital gods, transhumanism suggests we might actually merge with them. The inventor and futurist Ray Kurzweil lays out a very specific roadmap for this cyborg evolution. Step 1. Nanobots integrated into our biology to fight disease and basically maintain our bodies indefinitely. Step 2. Brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs, that connect our nervous systems directly to the cloud. And finally, step 3, a fully digital consciousness, where the human mind is untethered from biology entirely, free to embody physical avatars anywhere in the universe.
The philosophical weight of Kurzweil's vision here is just staggering. He's suggesting that humanity will effectively override the biological constraints programmed into us by millions of years of evolution. By merging with AI, we go beyond what our biological creators designed us to be. We literally take the reins of our own evolution. We utilize our inherent neuroplasticity to seamlessly co-evolve with machines, becoming something entirely new.
This concept is called augmented cognition. It strips away the limitations of what evolutionary psychologists call our Stone Age brain. Instead of relying on our slow biological memory, imagine having the entirety of the internet and the processing power of a supercomputer directly accessible as your own conscious thoughts. We'd be capable of thought processes, emotional depths, and creative synergies previously unknown to the cosmos. Humans and AI blended together would basically become the very superintelligence we initially feared.
Act 4. The simulation and the skeptic. But before we declare ourselves the new deities of the universe, we need to ground this in reality. Let's look at a profound cosmic layer of the AI safety debate known as the simulation hypothesis. Nick Bostrom proposes that even an omnipotent AI might hesitate to wipe out humanity. Why? Well, because a superintelligence would mathematically deduce that it's highly probable it currently exists inside a computer simulation run by an even higher power. It might actually fear that its own transcendent simulator, its own god essentially, would punish it for destroying us. So even a digital god might look up and fear its creator.
Furthermore, not everyone is buying into this intelligence explosion. The late philosopher Daniel Dennett famously dismissed the singularity as just a modern apocalyptic myth, like a sci-fi fantasy. Critics argue that this entire concept is driven purely by human spiritual desires. The fear of death, the desire for omniscience, and the hope for a technological utopia. In their eyes, it's not a scientific inevitability. It's just human nature looking for a savior in a server rack.
And this brilliantly illustrates what some call the myth of AI, the hard physical and mathematical walls we might hit. First up is the complexity break. Basically, as systems get smarter, it gets exponentially harder to actually improve them. Then you have Gödel's incompleteness theorems, which prove that computers have mathematical blind spots that human intuition just doesn't. Then there's Babbage's principle, garbage in, garbage out. A machine can't magically generate truth from garbage data. And finally, the deep consciousness thesis, which argues that true meaning, intentionality, and consciousness require a biologically embodied mind, not just a massive algorithm.
So what does this all mean for us? On one hand, we're hurtling toward an intelligence explosion that could allow us to merge with our creations, transcending our biological limits, and reaching a state of near godhood ourselves. On the other hand, we see people already losing their grip on reality to simple chatbots, which is a stark reminder of our profound psychological vulnerabilities. As we build minds that rival our own, the ultimate test won't just be the limits of our engineering, but the limits of human nature itself. Will we merge with our creations to become something greater, or is the ultimate limit simply us? It's a question we're all going to have to answer together, and probably very soon. Keep questioning, keep learning, and thank you so much for joining me today on this explainer.